The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Gordon from OzSoft, here to give you this week's weekly webinar. This week we'll be talking about the client importer utility, very handy utility. Look, I'll just, that people can use. Look, I'll just stall for a moment. We've got a few latecomers just joining on. I will be recording this session, and hopefully we should have it up on our website in a day or so for those that may have missed it or want to have a listen to me again, heaven forbid. All right, let's get underway. Okay, so this week the weekly webinar is about the client importer utility, which has been around for quite a number of years. Pretty handy little utility. Bit of housekeeping questions, certainly, but if you can just wait to the end of the presentation, so because I may answer the question along the way. It is being recorded, and yes, I have remembered to push the record button. And of course, there'll be more webinars to come, and keep an eye out on the VETtrak news. Okay, client import utility, what it does. It's a tool to import clients, so people basically, in bulk from some other system. So that could be from your HR system or from a spreadsheet that an employer sends you. All sorts of the possibilities are endless. The layout of the import file is quite flexible, and we actually create a mapping within the importer utility to match your layout. So you don't have to have a special layout just to suit the VETtrak import. We go the other way in this case. It imports almost all of the client fields. It certainly includes name, address, date of birth, includes the VETmis information, should you include it, the USI. It has options for different formats of addresses, so we call that a VETmis 6 or a VETmis 7, and the VETmis 6 was a lot simpler. VETmis 7 breaks the addresses up into a number of components. When I say almost all, it can't import images, so if you had client images, it's not going to do that. There could be a couple other fields that I've missed there as well. The file that it imports can either be an Excel spreadsheet, an XLS or an XLSX, or it could be a comma-separated values file, a CSV file. When you run the importer, you can also put the imported clients into a group. Now that's a great idea because then you've got all the people that you've imported in one place and you can do something with them. One thing that it also does, if there's no client code supplied against the individuals, then VETtrak will make up the next client code based on whatever the rules are that are in place. You can though, and this is especially happens when you're importing stuff from another HR system, where you may have your employee number. We can import that and that becomes the client code. That's a great idea because then you have a mapping between the two systems. One of the other important things is that this utility is free. If you want it added on, just let us know and we can add it onto your system. Another thing that is important to know is what it does not do. And it does not enroll the clients into anything. It just puts them in, imports the people and optionally puts them into a group. That's it. You don't import into an occurrence or import into a contract or anything like that. You're just making people. The other thing it doesn't do is create some of the required lookup data. And some examples here are employers. The word missing is missing the rest of the sentence. Sorry about that. It's missing suburbs. That was it. Suburbs. Divisions and positions. So they are things that have to be in your VETtrak. If you're going to import those columns, the base data for them needs to be there. And I'll give you an example, the suburb one in a tick. There is another version of the client importer that we call the client updater. Now it does have a cost. It's quite a complicated beast. It looks exactly the same, but what it does is allows you to perform updates to existing clients based on the data that you're importing. The client importer only makes new people. The client updater can edit existing people. The updater follows the same rules as the importer, and one of the important things is that it's got to match people, and it's performed by either one of the other or the other of these two, either by the client code, so the client code has to be in the importing data, or an exact match for surname, given name, and date of birth. And by exact, I mean exact. Like if you've got a given name of Rodney, but in your database you've got Rod, that won't match. So it needs to be spot on. There is a cost with that, and it's $5.78 per year if you wish to do that. Don't forget the actual importer has no cost. Let's have a demo. Okay, here's a spreadsheet that I've got potentially from a human resources system where I've got columns of people. In fact, let me just scroll to the top here. Title, given name, surname, gender, street address, blah, 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 blah. Lots of columns there, including the company, birthday, that's how it came out of the other system, telephone number. So this is straight from the other system. I haven't done any manipulation to it. I'm just going to take what's there. So let me just fire up a VETtrak now. I'll log in. My Pro role has this particular module installed. Under the utility menu now, I have an option for the client importer. Now I have this because it's been added to my company within the nice people at Allsoft have added it to my VETtrak registration key, and it now appears here. Bringing this up, quite a large wizard. It's got a lot to do. Things we need to do is to import, tell it which file we're going to import. Over here, if you want to import into a group, we can tell it the group. And this thing here is quite important, the grid layout. This is the mapping between the file that's come from the external system and the columns in this importer. And there are a bazillion columns. If you want to see them all in one place, there's a little button here that will show them all. And you can turn on or off as many as you like. You can also rearrange them. In fact, you would no doubt have to rearrange them to match the column order that your spreadsheet's in. How do we do that? Well, here's a trick. I'm just going to modify this VETtrak so it doesn't quite fill the whole screen and bring back up this spreadsheet. Now I can see the column headers that I've got across the top, so I can see what I've got to work with. Obviously, if you've got two screens, or you can put things to the left or the right, I'll leave that up to the reader. So I need to match these columns through here to the layout that's in my spreadsheet. Now, so far, I'm not looking too bad. Title, given, surname, other. Okay, I don't want other. What I'll do is turn it off. In fact, there's too many clicks there. I'm going to hide all columns. So this is the very basic information that you can import. So if you only got their surname, given name, you could have an import file with just those two. You could, of course, turn them all on if you want to have a look through the list, but it is large. So let me turn them off, and I'll turn back on the ones that I want. So I'd like title, thank you. Given name, surname, well, they're mandatory, so they're going to be on. I don't have an other name or preferred name. Gender, there we go. Street address, so you have primary address. So you have two types of address. You've got the primary address and also a postal address. And there are some rules about what happens if you've got one and not the other. And I'd like the city, the state, and the postcode, although it's called zip code here, that's okay. An email address, yes please. Telephone number, telephone, home phone, that looks like. Doesn't look like a mobile number. Date of birth or birthday, and company, which is employer name. Click that little there. Okay, so I've got these columns here, but they're in slightly the wrong order. So I do need to match this. So title, given, surname, home phone. No, I want gender. So I can grab this and drag it. So the little green arrows there, drop it in place. Okay, address, primary address. What is it? Email, no. Address city, address state, and I think there's one more. There we go. Postcode. That'll match that zip code. Now I want email, telephone number. I've lost my telephone number. Oh, home phone. Sorry. Date of birth for the birthday and employer name for the company. Let me just check that again. That I've got that. Title, given, surname, gender, street address, city, state, postcode, email, telephone number, date of birth, company. That's good. So what I'll do is save that layout. So you don't have to do that every time. That wouldn't be much fun. Something on my desktop here. I've got a folder for this data. Oh, look, I'll just put it on my desktop. And I'll call it HR import layout. Save. Okay, now I need to select the file. Now, just as a bit of a hint, you must close the Excel file. If the file is open in Excel, it causes all sorts of dramas, so just make sure that's closed. Let's have a look on my desktop, and I've got, it's not a CSV in this case, it actually is a spreadsheet. There we go, open. So I've got my spreadsheet, I've got my layout, load. And here we go. This is now read in all of the data that is in that spreadsheet and popped it in here so I can see it all. And it looks to me like it's got it pretty well spot on in the right columns. Okay, so the next step then is to validate that file. So we might have loaded the data into the grid, but is it okay to import? Are there things there that we need? Is there rubbish in there that doesn't make sense? So pushing the validate button will test it. Right. Right, some vital information is missing from VETtrak. Show it now. Yes, please. Now, I mentioned before, if you've got some of that vital information missing, that it will show you what's missing. And so in this case, it's a suburb, Newbury Park, New South Wales, 2830. Okay, that's missing. It needs to exist in VETtrak before you can import this. It's only a suburb that's missing in this case, so it's, we're not importing divisions or positions, and it's matched the employer up because it's not telling me that it can't. Now, if you wanted to, you could copy that to the clipboard, but I reckon I can remember that. So I'm going to close that importer. I can't go any further there because I've got an error. And I'll shoot off to the configuration manager in VETtrak, where down near the bottom here, I have suburbs. And I'm going to add in a new suburb for Newbury Park against New South Wales. Newbury Park, whoops. And postcode is 2830 off the top of my head. Actually, I lie, I wrote it down. Okay, so I've now got that in my list. Client importer. It's remembered my file. Good, it's remembered my layout. That makes it easy. And I'll say load the file. Okay, so it's loaded all those in. I think there's 50 odd people in there. Validate the file. Okay, a total of 50 records, no errors, no warnings, 50 records ready to be inserted. That's great. What you can do is, where there are any errors, you can click here and it'll tell you the validation results. So it'll tell you like it can't match the employer or the suburbs missing or things like that. One other thing I do want to do here before I go any further is to set a group. So here's a list of groups that are already in my system. So perhaps I'll, let's make a new group. And we'll call it CI test. Put them in the root division. So I'm making that. If I have a look in here, I will have it in client importer test. Okay, I think I've got everything I need. I've got my people, I've validated them, I've got a group where I want them to go, import them. Done. Okay, where did they go? Well, they're now just people. Here in the client manager, I'll just pause for a moment, make sure everyone catches up. Here's the client manager where if you do expand this, you can see groups, and I'm going to pick on my new group, which I can't see. Yes, I can. There it is, client importer test. And here are all the people that are in that group. So let's pick somebody. And I can see that they've been linked to Animals R Us. They've been given a client code. And if a quick look over here on the right-hand side, mail, date of birth, email, and address information. Editing the client, you'll see that we've imported it exactly. So Mr. with a dot, that was in the file, so we've imported it. VETtrak will automatically assign usernames and passwords, assign them to that employer. They're in that group. There weren't any notes, although there can be notes imported. And here within the personal wizard, we've got mail, gender, and so on. We've got all the bits and pieces that were imported. We've got the address information. Because there was only one address, it's been copied into both postal and the usual address. And there wasn't any of it misinformation that came in this import, but there could be. So that's basically the process for importing. So let me just go back to that. So you pick your file, organize your layout to match the layout of that file. And you only need to do that once, unless of course you change the file. Load up your file, perform a validation. Now I'd be expecting some errors here, and there are. It's because these people already exist. Which is good. In this case, the existing ones would be skipped. There are a few settings that you can look at to control the flow of things. Which row has the first data? Should it do things automatically, or should it prompt you for each one? If you have the client updater feature installed, then it will allow you to do updates to existing clients. This tick box will be available. And you can also change the format of the text file if you're importing from CSV files and things are a bit strange. So I think that's probably about it for the client importer. I might have a quick look now to see if I've got any questions and then whether I can answer them. Actually, before I go any further, let me just show you the help file for it. Ooh. It's a bit weird. That's a good question. My Adobe Reader is doing something strange. I'm not quite sure what that is. Okay, here's our client importer document. Let me just shrink that down a little bit. This document will take you through setting it up. Pretty much what I just talked about, matching the columns. But the bit that I want to get to is actually down in the bottom, where I'm listing the fields that are imported. So if you're wondering, I haven't looked at the questions yet, but I'm sure one of them is, can you import this field? And the answer is probably yes, if it's in this list. Now, the fields that come in need to follow some rules. For example, gender. You can't put yes or no or things like that in there. It has to match one of these. So either M, male, capital males, lowercase male, or F, female, and so on. Or if it's blank, then we'll set it to not stated. Employer is one of those purple ones that must match something that already exists in VETtrak. There are numerous other fields in here. All the ones that you saw in that list the various VETmis fields have to match exactly. So, do you have prior education? Well, if it's a yes or a no, that's okay, as long as it has a Y as the first letter or an N as the first letter. Except not stated, that makes sense. Okay, let's have a quick look at any questions to see if we've got anything. And I have a number. So bear with me for a moment. Okay, question is, what happens if they already exist in VETtrak? Well, as you saw, you'll get a warning about them and you can't import those particular people. If you do have the client updater, then it will do the match, as I mentioned, based on code or surname, given name, date of birth, and attempt to update them if they're different. Next question, can that group then just be enrolled into occurrence or occurrences? Yes. What if an individual within that group needs to be enrolled in other occurrences but not part of that group? Oh, good question. Let me just show you that. Here's an occurrence that I prepared earlier. So let's go here in July, animal care. No one enrolled at the moment, but when I go enroll clients in occurrence, I can do a search by group. And I'll say, I'd like that one. And something that you may not realize is that you can actually grab the group here and drag it across, drop it into that right-hand side, and that'll put all of those people in there. So I can see that I've got 50. But you can then say, oh, Phoebe, no, she's not coming. She's a special, I'm going to take her out. So you can modify that list to suit whatever you want. So the answer, yes, you can enroll lots of people there in one go. And a question about the USI, yes, you can import the USI. It does have to follow the rules for a USI, so it has to be a valid USI. Now, we don't know that that USI is correct for that person, but it has to follow the format validation. Next question here, is there any way to update students' unit results from CSV? No. This tool only deals with clients, importing clients, and if you have the updater, updating the clients. Another question, what would be the quickest way to then attach participants to a contract? Well, if the contract did not exist, you could do a create contract or create profile contract if you happen to use profiles. And again, you can pick the group. And you could select all those people and go on and make contracts for them all. If the contracts already exist, well, actually, they couldn't already exist because you wouldn't. If they already existed, they'd be linked to a person. So that would be the way to do it, to make new contracts for those people. Okay, is it possible to import results using the updater feature? No. As I mentioned before, it's only talking about clients themselves, the person and the personal details. Next question, do I need to purchase the updater to make the clients inactive, or can I do this just installing the importer? Okay, if you want to make them inactive in bulk, look, I'm just going to check whether the status is a field, and I don't think it is. Just looking down the list of fields here, and they're sort of grouped together, all the VETmis things. Archive flag, yes. You could, if you had a column in your spreadsheet, you could set the archive flag to the appropriate value, and they would then be marked as being inactive or active, but you would have to have the editor for it. More questions. Got some good questions here. This is good. Can you import students from another SMS, such as Power Pro RTO, and include the unit of competencies that the client has already been assigned to? That's the short answer is no. Yes, we can import the students. from another system, as long as you can get them into a spreadsheet or a CSV. If you're talking about the setting up their enrollments with their competencies, then through this tool, no. But if you want to do that, we can help you, because we do have another utility that we use behind the scenes to import VETmis files into a database. So we have a way of doing that, and that's often used when we have customers that switch from using another system into VETtrak, is that we take their VETmis files, perhaps a couple of years worth, and import all that detail into VETtrak. Another question, is there a USI field? Yes, there is. I mentioned that there before. Is Excel the only source type? No, you can have Excel or a CSV, a comma separated values. Now, there's a good reason for using a CSV. If I just go back to the spreadsheet here, if you have a column in here that represented, now to scroll to the top, let me insert a column, that was perhaps their client code. One problem with Excel is if you have a number like 001234, it will chop off the leading zeros. Did you notice that? Here I had 001234, and when I left that cell, it removed the leading zeros. Now in VETtrak, those leading zeros are part of the client code. If you have an external system that produces a spreadsheet, or you manipulate something in a spreadsheet and you open it up, as soon as VETtrak Excel sees that column, it'll chop off the leading zeros and you've buggered up your client codes. In that case, we'd recommend using a CSV file, because a CSV file, and also not editing it in Excel, because you can open CSVs in Excel. We'd recommend you didn't, because you'll have that same problem. So Excel is not the only format. CSV is the other format that we can use. Does VETtrak have an external link field, or be able to use an external link within a field? Look, I'm not quite sure I understand that question. Perhaps the person that asked that question might like to shoot me an email, just to, we could have a chat about that. I'm not quite sure what that is. Can I add existing clients to a group through the updater? No, it's only as they're being imported. Actually, I'm just being yelled at from the sidelines, and it would appear that yes, if you had the client updater and you were updating them, there is a preference to do that. That'll be in the help document. Another question, does the client updater allow us to upload data for employers that do not exist in VETtrak? Currently, no, but we will take that on note. That could be something that grows in the future. Another question, we train internal staff. Could the updater mark staff, who are clients, as inactive if they did not match to my HR spreadsheet, i.e. left the company? Certainly could, yes. Staff are just clients, and if you have the client updater, then you could do that. In fact, that's quite common that we see people that do use the updater, they get a dump from the HR system and turn off people. What is the process for getting the client importer utility? Probably the best is to shoot an email to support@aussoft.com.au and ask for it to be added to your system. For hosting people, we'll add that in out behind the scenes. For locally installed people, we'll direct you to the appropriate download that you need to get to add to your system. There is a question about how do you export clients. Now, I'm not quite sure if that's from VETtrak or from your external system. Obviously, we have no idea how you get it out of your other system. But if you want to export clients from VETtrak, then there are a number of reports, and of course, the standard reports are growing day by day. If we have a look in the standard reports here, or system reports, we've got a number of reports around exporting, certainly around enrollments and results. But up here, there's a great one for exporting people if you want to dump out lots of people. So that's under reports, system reports. Actually, we're going to be renaming that to standard reports very soon, because they are standard. So that's how you get them out. More questions. This is good. Will the recognition identifier for prior qualifications be included in the client importer or updated in the future? Prior qualifications, I believe that's there. If you're talking about the Victorian field, the new field for that, then that's a possibility. So we might be slightly cross preferences there, because we do have prior education, but for those that are in Victoria, there is another required field to say whether that was, let me think, there are three options: Australian, international equivalent, or a third one I can't remember off the top of my head. Look, the answer to that is no currently. I've just lost my question list. Hang on, now I have lost my question list. There we go. This is what happens when I haven't got James helping me. Okay, does the importer only import new clients? If your spreadsheet has clients with codes who are already in VETtrak, can they be imported into a group and then group enrolled in occurrence? Well, we mentioned that, although there are two things you're trying to do there. So I think we probably want to talk to you just to see exactly what you were trying to do there. I think the answer is yes, but we'd probably a bit of clarification will be needed. So the person that asked that question, if you want to get in touch with us, we can help there. Another question, if we were using this feature for updating the VETmis information for existing clients already set up, can we do this? Yes, you can. You would need to have the updater utility, which does come at a cost, but yes, you could certainly do that. Can you attach participants to two different groups? Look, not in the one pass through the wizard, no. And you would, the short answer is probably no, especially if you're importing them. If you're editing them, then yes, you could import the file twice, but that would get a little complicated, but could be done. Okay, somebody's pointed out something here that with Excel, all you need to do is change your Excel's file field values to text. I understand that, but as soon as you open the file that's come from the source system, it's already buggered the fields up before you get a chance to change it to text, and the leading information is lost. We've had years of experience with this, and it causes us no end of trouble. Another question, as student results are not able to be imported using this feature, is there another feature that solves this? The short answer is no. Things get a bit more complicated when we're talking about enrollments, well, with results, because are they enrolled? What are their results? Are they already competent? There's lots of rules around that. Another question, VETtrak can include emails. Can it include links to websites? That's not a field that we have against a client. So if you wanted to do that, you could put it in the notes field against that person and get it in. Another question, can you add classes for clients that don't require enrollments? Oh, I don't quite understand that. Can you add classes for clients that don't require enrollments? Well, no, you can put them into groups, but certainly not classes. Classes belong in occurrences. Another quick question about, has the webinar been recorded? Yes, it has. Last question, what happens if the client code you're importing already exists in your VETtrak? Now I've showed that you will get an error and you can't import that person again. But wait, there's more. What is the easy way to enter students, make an Excel list, or directly enter students into VETtrak? Oh, that's a good question. Really, with using the spreadsheet is good if you've already got the data in some other source or some other format. You can put it into a spreadsheet and then import them. If you had them, say, on a written enrollment form, I think it's probably easier to actually put them in one by one and go right through them. That's up to you. Okay, look, I think that's probably enough for the client importer utility. So It is available now. For the general importer, there's no cost. For the updater, which has some tricky work to do, there is an annual fee. If you're interested in that at all, please contact us. All right, well, thanks very much for your time, and don't forget there'll be another weekly Wednesday webinar next Wednesday, which I think is the 1st of July. So thanks very much.